Right, here's a clue for you from the Nancy Drew case files. The 1959 revisions. After the Second World War, Harriet Stratmeyer was concerned that Nancy Drew was too old-fashioned for the readers of the 1950s. The post-war boom had ushered a new era into the lives of Americans. With the popularity of rock and roll music and television, less children were reading, so Harriet sought to reimagine Nancy and bolster her book sales. To streamline the stories, the books were cut from 25 chapters to 20. This helped quicken the pace of the mystery, and readers didn't have to sit through exposition. The adventure started right away. Characters were changed, added, and omitted for a variety of reasons, sometimes for the sake of the plot, but often because Harriet wanted to update the language that reinforced ethnic and racial stereotypes. Unfortunately, she found that the easiest way to accomplish that was to just omit characters of color in many of the books altogether. Even aspects of Nancy's character changed. Her age was raised from 16 to 18. Some sources say that this was intended to accommodate the legal driving age in all states. In the original text, Nancy was far more opinionated and was willing to give people a piece of her mind, even if they were older than her. This was a personal issue for Harriet, as she and Mildred, the original author of Nancy Drew, disagreed quite a bit over how Nancy should talk. In a letter to Mildred, Harriet wrote, "We have already mentioned to you the idea of making the heroines too officious. This does not occur very often, but once in a while Nancy will get beyond the bounds of respectfulness for her elders. After all, she is a bit young to order around police officers and doctors." But Mildred's Nancy spoke like she did, with an edge that served them well in a world where men and boys were still mostly in control. She said so herself later. "I think the whole thing here, there was a beginning conflict in what is Nancy. Mrs. Adams, or Harriet, was an entirely different person. She was more cultured and refined. I was probably a rough and tumble newspaper person who had to earn a living, and I was out in the world. That was my type of Nancy." After the revisions, Nancy softened into that unfailingly polite teen we know today. Nancy's world also changed significantly through the revision process. The new stories had far less violence, as the villains were less cruel and fairly incompetent, making it possible for Nancy to catch them with her wits alone. And would you believe that in the original text of The Secret at Shadow Ranch, Nancy carried a pistol? Although Nancy still engaged in car chases on the regular, her speed was adjusted so she was always following the law. And perhaps most relevant to the changing time period was the technology referenced in Nancy's life. It was updated to match the life of the reader. No more telegrams to be sent or an icebox to serve leftovers. Instead, she makes phone calls and uses a refrigerator.